What's up, guys? We're at Genesis Gaming right after the charity tournament, and we have Charlie here with his Sky Striker deck from the feature match from Heart of the Game the other week.
Last week, I think.
Yeah, we got
Last Saturday.
yeah we got some requests for the deck profile, and Charlie's the best Sky Striker pilot that I know, so I feel like this would be the best opportunity to get one of these on the channel. So you
I've
want to just
also
take
been meaning to do one for my channel, but I haven't gotten around to it, so I felt like this was just a good opportunity to get my list out there.
We'll put his channel in the description to go check it out.
Cool. So first shout out my Vance here.
What up, Lucian?
We built a deck together. He was responsible for one extra deck card that I put in.
Yeah, he would have been free without it.
I was getting cooked by Psychic and Punisher without it.
Word, okay.
Shout out CLV and shout out Synovio.
Hell yeah.
Alright, so
40 card main deck?
40 card main. You can't really get away with playing anymore in this deck, even with Upstart. So starter cards, the 3-ray Rose, Hornet Drone, Rhoda, the 3 linkage, and then the 2 engages. So these are all the ways to the extra deck. There's 11. Some people play 2 of this. You don't really need it. This is mostly just used as a utility card. It's not really a good starter because it loses to too much it loses to Mirror Jade, it loses to cards that book, just anything that spot removals, anything with that in summon, this just loses to. So you play it as a utility card, and then you also want to keep the main deck ways to your extra deck low, because the worst hands are the ones where you draw a lot of these ones. Obviously engage as any of them, but the ones where you draw 3 of these or like this is just really terrible. So
yeah.
You want to play enough to where you see it, but you don't want to play enough to where you brick on the names, because those are just the worst hands.
Totally makes sense.
So then the other striker cards, 1 Ego Booster, which is kind of, not a whole lot of people are playing this, but this is the best to search off of Shizuku in the end phase to do the multi-roll play. If you have the multi-roll set, you search this off of Shizuku. It's an extra spell for the multi-roll, so you can usually set 2 or 3, and then having this in Anchor pretty much guarantees you're going to live the next turn, which usually if you can get away with winning or surviving 1 turn, you'll win the game. So that's why I wanted to play this. Also, it's just good to play into boards with, since we are going second.
Yeah.
2 Afterburners just to help break boards. You can kind of brick on it if your opponent makes you go first, if they know you're playing Striker, which is a problem with the going second build, especially in big tournaments, and if you play this a lot of locals. But you kind of have to play it too, because it's just super good to break your opponent's board with, and the trading the 2 for 1 is really nice.
Nice.
The 3 Anchor, this doesn't really change. This is just
broken card.
Yeah, broken. Shark Cannon, just the 1. So you might be able to play 2. It's just, this doesn't really help you break a board. It just kind of helps you stop your opponent. It's good against, it's really only good against branded, because you can Shark Cannon their stuff before it gets to the end phase, so they can't add stuff back. It's good against Dragon Link, any deck that kind of needs their graveyard. It's also good to use to Link Climb with.
Yeah, okay.
And then 2 multi-roll. There's a lot of debate if you should play 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of this, but I think 2 is a correct number, even if you're going first or second. As I played this deck when Engage was at 1, and multi-roll was at 1, and the problem with this being at 1 is that there's times where you'd want to Kagari add your Engage or the spec if they went through it. Now we don't really have that problem, because if they out the 1 multi-roll, you have the other one to search. Also, it's really good playing into a board, because this card kind of demands a response, because if they don't negate this, you just can't respond to any of the really broken spell cards that this deck just has access to. This lets you also play around Droll if you have it resolved. If you activate it so they can't respond, Droll's a quick effect, so you search a quick play, and then you use your priority on resolution to activate the quick play, and they're not allowed to Droll in that window that they normally be able to Droll in.
Yeah.
So it's really good for playing around Droll if people are playing Droll. That's it for all the striker cards. No Area 0, which
how do you feel about that?
I don't think it does a whole lot. It's technically consistency, but you only really get consistency out of it. You have to set a card to get the Area 0, which isn't always guaranteed to hit a card. I played Purrely before this, and I would reveal the 3 off of Purrely, and even though I have so many cards to hit, it would just never go through. So with a deck like Striker, takes a lot to get into the game. I can't really rely on excavating 3 to get me to my cards, and that it only really guarantees Ray if you draw multi-roll in conjunction with it, which I don't want to rely on drawing like a 2-card combo. So I felt like there's just better spell cards to play, like Thrust, and then I was playing 2 talents, but I kind of like this at 1. Like, the problem with these cards is if your opponent doesn't do anything to you, then these are all just kind of dead.
Yeah.
But this deck has so many ways to force interaction that these are worth playing, and then because we're playing a spell deck, we get the benefit of playing really busted spell cards like Raigeki and Duster, which are in the side deck that you can side in when you need them. But this like searches engage, which searches the other things. There's spells in graveyard. These cards are all just like really good outbreak boards.
Yeah, so you'd say if anything in the future, you'd put maybe talents to 1, but you would definitely keep the Thrust package.
Yeah, you definitely keep the Thrust. I was playing 2 because sometimes you can like brick on them, but the card is just too good not to play in my opinion in this deck.
Yeah.
In the main deck, I wouldn't like recommend any other deck really playing this in the main deck. Just like I said, I don't like that your opponent has to actually interact with you for it to be live, but like I said, like with Afterburners, Widow Anchor, like talents, there's a lot of ways to get your opponent to like play into it. So then hand traps, like I built this deck for Branded, which ironically enough was my only loss to you playing Branded. So I played the Crow because this plays around Branded lost better into the Branded in red play because you could just Crow. You can't bell it, but you can Crow. It also came up in the feature match to like Crow, like the one for Vanquish Soul you try to bring back. It's just generically good into like the mirror. It's alright. It's also a dark now with the new one as
yeah, that's cool.
So this is a dark that you can use to make it. I'll probably be doing like an updated deck profile once I like actually test with that card.
Yeah.
But that's just something also to consider.
Sounds good.
3 Ash, obviously, like 4 Branded, just also generically good.
Yep.
And then Imperm. These are like the rest of the hand traps. These are all just really good to like draw into off of engage. Like I want cards that are good to draw, which is why I don't play like Lightning Storm. I've never really liked Lightning Storm in this deck just because it's usually only really good when you draw it, but when you draw into it off of engage, which is you're drawing a lot with this deck,
it's horrible.
It's terrible. So they're just better cards to play.
Would you ever play any other hand traps?
Not more. I would probably like change the Crow out for something. I feel like these 6 are pretty mandatory.
Yeah.
This is like arguably the interchangeable spot. I don't know what it would be. Because like I said, I was building this for Branded in mind.
Yeah.
But like it could be like Valor even. Like Valor's not awful. It's not really great against Cash, but it's 1-for-1 against with a lot of other decks. And it's also like a light, which matters now if we're getting into the Shrekker engine.
Yeah.
So Valor is also something that could be considered. I played 2 Desires. I was playing Prosperity before, but I kind of just like this better after testing it because the card advantage you actually gain is super nice, and then like Prosperity does kind of conflict with Engage. Not too much, but enough to where like I just wanted to play this because actually banishing my extra deck stuff actually kind of mattered. So I'd rather just have the utility in the extra deck.
Totally understandable.
So,
yeah. You don't ever run into areas where you like would banish cards you need. That doesn't really happen with your Striker engine that much.
So there are times where you have to start with this and then you banish like a bunch of stuff and it sucks. But if you open like somewhat playable, you can get like your at least 1 engage out of the deck. You can get, which means you can get like your multi-roll out of the deck or like a Widow Anchor. So when you go to resolve this, you at least have like both of them safe from getting banished. So sometimes that comes up where like you'll open Desires, but you also like open playables. So you'll like get an engage out, get like a multi-roll, and then you can resolve Desires.
Cool.
And then 3 Droplet.
Ooh.
This card is actually like insane in this deck. It's not really good into the cast matchup, but it's good against literally everything else since this sends for the for like part of the cost. So what you can do is like activate like let's say you have 2 spells in graveyard and you activate Engage and then they like go to negate this. You can chain the Droplet and send this off, or any Striker spell, and then when it resolves, it sees that there's 3 in the graveyard because the Striker cards check at resolution, not at activation.
Oh.
So if you activate like a Striker card with like 2 spells in the graveyard and then chain this or linkage to get the other one off the board, it makes the second effect live, which comes up when you're playing like Afterburners into a board, and then they won't activate their spell or trap that they have back, and then you can like chain this, and then you can get rid of the back row too.
That's awesome.
And then the last card was D-Barrier.
Ooh.
So like I said, I was building this deck for Branded, and this was just like the best trap to set off of like Thrust if I didn't need to. So like the theory was like I could just break their board, activate thrust, set this, and then I'm pretty much like guaranteed to win that game.
Did that come up at all? Okay.
It did not come up at all, but that was the reason behind it. And like it probably would come up more. Like I haven't played this deck since that weekend because like Nats is coming up and I'm playing cash for that.
Yeah.
But it may come up later in the future. I don't think D-Barrier is like super great anyway. It's just that was like the last spot is one thing I can really think of. So we're just gonna do the extra deck now.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. These are like the link ones. I kind of want to cut a Shizuku. It doesn't really come up too much if you play properly. And then I also kind of like am thinking about cutting the kind in the future because you don't really need this too much anymore. It comes up sometime. It's nice that it's an Earth because I'm also playing. I'm playing Ausa. Oh yeah. Which comes up a lot, like to where if you don't have your Shark Cannon, this is the Earth to make this. Which this comes up. This is mainly like with cash in mind because you can like take their Fenrir and then their Fenrir is live. So like if you get anti-spelled, but you can get 2 bodies on board and they're playing like a Fenrir is like they're either playing cash or they're playing Fenrir as like a piece to like their combo or like their end board. Yeah. You can like take it and then start like banishing problematic stuff with it. So that comes up for that. 2 Zeke, the other 2 striker links. Yeah. I was playing one for a bit and then like I was considering Unicorn ripping this because you kind of use this to like Widow take their stuff and then you link it away into this and then you use this to like clear another card. So I wanted to have the 2 because like sometimes you burn through the first one and you want like a second one like for the follow-up. It can come up, but that's why I wanted to play the second. Yeah. Dark is the other charmer that I'm deciding to play just because like there's just like a lot of darks in the format. It can search Ray if it gets destroyed by battle, but you're usually down very bad if you're in that position. Yeah.
Do you see yourself keeping Dark? Do you think it's at least with Branded in mind, it puts in work?
Yeah, it can also just be like Hida, just to like have more like generic stuff. Sure. Because a lot of every deck plays Hash, which is kind of what you would play Hida for. And then this is the other card is Ningirsu. This is foreign, but what it does is, if you don't know, it has a mandatory effect on summon 2 draw cards equal to the number of world chalices that it points to, which never comes up, obviously, but it is a mandatory effect that, like, you can get ogred on this, technically. So, like, it is important to, like, not, like, to know that. But its other effect is I can send 1 card from both players' fields to the graveyard. So it works like evenly. So like unaffected monsters, I can just send them, which just comes up like I ought to second again Punisher. Yeah. So you just like you link climb into this because this needs 2 link monsters, but that's obviously not a problem because it's all links. And then you make this, and then you can send any card, so you don't have to send this. And then that's just the link for access code, which you just steal games with this sometimes. Like it just you kind of have to play this. This is like not the win con of the deck, but like the times you can get to this, you usually just win. And it is also combos really well with linkage. If you can link up into this, pop their board, attack for 53, linkage away into like Kagari, adding like linkage back, that's really good. It just wins the game there.
That's crazy.
So that's the extra deck, which is probably going to change now that like the new Link 2 is out, but this is obviously before that. Yeah. And then the side deck is the last 2 D-Barriers, just in case like I thought my opponent was going to make me go first. Like obviously you just want to max out on this because it's like the power trap. One of my philosophies when I play this deck is I don't want cards like Summon Limit and they're going to be only 1 because they lose super hard to like spell and trap removal. So if you think your opponent's going to make you go first, obviously like the Duster, the Storms, the Cosmics are all coming in. So I don't want to play cards that just auto lose to those.
That happens enough where they make you go first as a striker player.
Yeah, because if you win the die roll and then they make you go or you make them go first, they're like, okay. Like, if I lose, like, I'm not like, you can just go first. And, like, Striker just doesn't have a really good turn 1 play where, like, you need, like, a really unfair trap that you can just flip to kind of, like, live the turn. That's kind of like the game plan is just live the turn. And then you should be able to, like, do enough, like, on the follow-up.
Maybe even thrust out the D-Barrier, you know? Like,
Yeah, like, because you still keep thrusting just because, like, the game's usually not over in 1 turn if you're going first because it just searches so much. And then other turn skips, just stroll. It's just like the same kind of logic. I just wanted like a card that didn't lose a spell and trap removal that just skipped my opponent's turn. So these just came in for like decks that add. This was mainly with like Gold Pride like in mind because that deck just generates so much advantage. And then Like I just needed it because they would just like end on like a bunch of stuff and then have 6 cards in hand, and I'm just like, yeah, I just can't do this. Even if I like thrust for Raigeki, there's just not enough.
Yeah.
And then the 2 thrust targets.
Oh wow.
I was maining these, but I didn't think they were like super good into like branded to main deck them. But these are also cards that could be in the main too, because thrust is like really good to search these.
Yeah.
2 nib. I only needed like there's a lot of 2 ofs and random 1 ofs, so this just I didn't want to like draw this as like a 6 card too much. I just kind of wanted like an additional hand trap, which.
Do you like nib right now?
One.
With like so much sprite.
Nib's good. It'd probably be better if I played like Valor too.
Yeah.
And this is also a light, which is gonna come up. But yeah, I just couldn't think of like 2 better cards for it, so that just went to that spot. Bell also branded, hits cash, like the Kashtira Birth. Like keeping cash off of like a cash name is super important in the matchup for cash with this deck, because Birth just banishing your graveyard every turn just makes it so you just can't win the game.
Yeah.
You just banish your raise and all your spells, and then you can't get the bonus effects, and if the bonus effects are off, then it's just not a good time. And then
3.
Cosmic for more spell and trap removal. Just like you mainly need this for anti-spell.
Yeah.
This is for like anti-spell decks mostly. You can set it like going first, like if you think your opponent's gonna make it go first. Like it's not the worst to like set, but I didn't want to like auto lose the anti-spell, so I just needed to play this as like the other spell and trap removal.
Yeah.
It's usually enough with like this, and then like the burners and everything, like the thrusts getting you to the like the afterburners and the duster. Like you usually have ways to like deal with it, but a lot of times they just flip anti-spell and you just lose. So I needed a way to like not lose. So that's what the Cosmic was for.
Yeah. How do you feel about the side deck going forward? Really?
It's not bad. Like I probably, if I'm not building with branded, these are probably just going in the main deck, just because these are just good to like. These are just good. Like every deck in the meta kind of like play spells and traps, and they set like they play monsters too. Like every deck kind of like sets something, or they have stuff that they set like behind their board. So these are just good to just like have in the main, especially like in like a local setting when you just kind of like play whatever. Like these are all like really good blowouts. I might consider like maining Nib in the future, but these are 2 cards I could definitely like move to the main at some point. And then I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing D-Barrier, because I just don't think this does enough against like cash, because you just flip this and then they just keep.
They still OTK you,
yeah. Even if they like make a Shang and then you flip this, they can still like do a lot. So I don't know if I like love this card yet, but I like all the other cards in the side. They just like skip the turns, which is mostly like Nib is so because a lot of your ways to your extra deck you need that's not to be in there in your main monster zone.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like a cool play you can do with this and linkage, which if you have Nib you can set up pretty easy. So like let's say you have Nib in your hand and you also have your linkage set. If you go chainlink 1 linkage when you want a Nib, and then you go chainlink 2 Nib, Nib will tribute the board and then summon itself, and then you can linkage, get rid of the Nib to summon your Sky Striker, which is like a really good, because you like get the Nib, but you also don't lose your engine access.
Yeah, that's really good.
And then also like it's good. Like this is where like the utility of Rose also comes in, because if they have like a monster in the extra monster zone, and then you Nib them, this can come back, which is your engine. So like it's tough. Like Nib is one of those cards where you don't really. Like sometimes it like fits in the main deck well. Sometimes you like want it for certain matchups. Like a lot of decks aren't really respecting Nib at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like this could be mained at some point, especially like now that it's a light, and like 2 lights or 2 like a light and a dark gets you into your engine. It might be worth considering to play in the main, but it just really just depends on how like the meta ends up shaping out. Honestly, for like the tech choices, like one of the things about this deck is it's always been able to adapt really well to like the meta shifts over time, which is one of the reasons why I think it's been able to be so good over like.
Multiple
the last
formats.
the last 4 or 5 years, however long this deck's been out, 5 years at this point. So that's pretty much the deck, though.
Yeah, that's great. I thank you very much for the profile, Charlie.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, and please, everyone, I implore, go check out Charlie's channel, his Twitch. That will all be in the YouTube description.
On my Twitch, I do remote duel streams, and I'm usually playing Striker. So if you like Striker, you want to like learn more about the deck, definitely come by and
Great.
drop me a follow, and hope to see everybody in the stream sometime.
Sounds great. All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
Have a
me.
good one.
Yeah,
Bye.
you too.
The pro